Evening class, Professor Cigars. Tonight I'll be talking to you about positioning, which is the third step in STP, segmentation, targeting, and of course the P, positioning. I'll just give you guys an agenda that I will be going through. I will discuss what exactly is positioning. I will discuss what are the perceptual maps, what is the positioning matrix, which we actually had the opportunity to do this week through our discussion. I will then go into the 4 Ps and how the 4 Ps are always related back to marketing and whatever strategy that is related, but in this case, how the 4 Ps are related to positioning. I will talk about the positioning statement, who that is for, who it is supposed to target, and the purpose of a positioning statement. And then I will go into an article that I found which discusses positioning and why it's so important for companies to really make sure whatever product they're trying to put out onto the market and why it needs to be properly positioned. Okay, so what is positioning? Positioning is a marketing strategy that aims to distinguish a brand or product in a particular market against its competitors, but in a more specific sense in the customer's mind and how the customers tend to think about that brand whenever it comes up. So how do the customers think about the brand when they hear the name or when they see a commercial? How high of a price can you charge for your product? Is it of value? Do customers truly value the product at hand or the brand at hand? Now that we've covered the definition of positioning, let's move into what is the perceptual map. The perceptual map is a visual tool or a diagram utilized by marketers or companies that are interested in gauging their customer perception or their potential customer perception. And by utilizing this graph, these companies are able to see based off of normally two categories, how the customer considers or what the customer considers their brand to be, how they perceive the product at hand. For example, the example given in the textbook talks about cars. So Lexus, Lincoln, Tesla, and Toyota. And it's based off of price and it's based off of service. So Lincoln and Lexus are more similar brands because they're closer together in the center. They're similar in price and they're also similar in service, whereas Toyota was on the far left bottom end, which means it's in significantly less in price, and they have more of a basic service, whereas Tesla has more of a luxury service, as well as it's a little more expensive than the other cars that I previously mentioned. Therefore, Tesla is located in the upper right-hand corner. And this gives marketers a visual presentation of where their brand falls and if that's who they're trying to target, and if they are targeting their segment that they set out to advertise to, then that means the company is doing well. Moving on to the positioning matrix, this is also a graphic representation of where the product or brand, as well as the competitors, fit into a particular market. With this graph, you can see how customers gauge and feel about the brand. For an example, I will use Walmart and Nordstrom. Walmart sells clothes, and as well as Nordstrom, the difference is quality, variety, but also they could be specialized in particular products. So on a matrix, the first quadrant would be low price, but they have a variety of items. And Walmart would fit into that first quadrant because it is predominantly low prices and they have a variety of merchandise that can be purchased there. Whereas Nordstrom, would fall under high cost. We do know Nordstrom is a little on the higher end. And they also are a department store, so it would also fit under priority. That would cover quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. For a more specialized, low cost, a store such as the local mom and pop t-shirt shop or candy store would fit into a low cost and specialized store, and that would be quadrant 2. And for quadrant 4, which would be high priced and specialized, a store such as Toys R Us, which prices can be high and they are specifically specialized in toys. So this allows the company to see where exactly they are amongst their competitors. What do they have to offer that the other companies do not? This takes us into the 4 P's: price, promotion, place, and product. And when reading through the chapter really utilized the 4 P's as questions. What is your product? What is your product value? What is it offering to the customer? What are you charging for your product? Is the price that you're charging worth the value of what that product is? Who are you promoting your product to? And is your product available in certain areas? Is it easily accessible for the value at hand? And we do see the 4 P's come up a lot, especially in marketing. But positioning, when you're trying to find the fit for your company or your brand in a market, it is worth taking the time to see and observe what exactly those answers are to those questions, because you would like your customers to seek your product or your brand that you are trying to position, especially if you have set a particular segment for this brand. The positioning statement is a very important part of the positioning process. This is a statement that ties the purpose of the product or the brand at hand. It informs people who are under or internal and external, such as employees, customers, stakeholders, and anyone else who may be in relation to the company or the product. But it specifically addresses the target segment. And this leads me into the business article, which I read on entrepreneur.com, and it is titled "The Art of Positioning Your Brand and Why You Can't Afford to Screw It Up." Now, this was an article written by Jim Joseph, and he's Chief Integrated Marketing Officer and President of Cone and Wolf. So he is a professional marketer and has quite a bit of experience, but he talks about positioning and why companies should never miss that opportunity to position their brand and get inside the customer's head and take a look at those thoughts that they're thinking, because positioning is all about the bond. He makes two major points. It's build from what you know already about your customers, and to establish an emotional bond with the customers, specifically the ones that you are targeting. Because if you resonate something with those customers, then you know that your product or your service will stick with the customers, and you will then begin to reap those loyal customers to support your company. To tie up the topic of positioning, Jim Joseph continues to discuss in the article that positioning is not about facts. It is not about fact finding. It is about the emotional connection that companies are able and are willing to establish with those consumers who purchase from them, who look to receive their services. An example of that would be L'Oreal, who does a great job at building a strong relationship with their customers, and especially with their model, which is because you're worth it. And that makes the customer feel good. So when you hear that model, because you're worth it, your instant thoughts are full of positivity, and you know exactly what company is being referred to. Finally, when companies are positioning products, it is necessary for them to think about how they want the customer to feel, and their perspective of the products. And that is why the perceptual map is utilized. That is why the matrix is utilized. And those tools are all contributing to the thoughts and the feelings of the customers that they're specifically trying to target, those customers that are specifically in the segmentation they had set out to reach. So again, as Jim Joseph so passionately discussed in his article on Entrepreneur, it isn't about the physical. Positioning is a little more emotional and mental when dealing with consumers. And thank you for listening to this presentation.